All right, so we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Chelsea Alexandra with Rolling Out Health IQ. Super excited today. Have a special guest with me. She is caregiver coach Pat Bailey. She will be joining us today and just giving us all these gems on, I guess knowing more about Alzheimer's disease, how mental health and brain health kind of correlates and things of that nature. So let's get right into it. How are you doing today, Miss Pat?
Oh, Miss Chelsea, I'm doing phenomenal today. How about yourself? You look beautiful.
Thank you. So do you. It's been a good day. It's Monday, or it's not Monday. It is Tuesday. As you can see, you see how the week's going, but it's been a good day. I can't
That's
complain.
awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for
Yes,
the opportunity today. I appreciate it.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have a great story and I love what you do on a day to day. But before we get into, what you do, uh, I want to know more about Alzheimer's disease. So, what is Alzheimer's disease and why is it important that we know the importance of it?
So I heard two parts to that question. One is what is it, and then why should we know it? Couple facts. In particular, when people think about Alzheimer's disease, they need to think about it from the standpoint of an umbrella, meaning the umbrella is dementia.
Mhm.
Alzheimer's is one spoke of the umbrella. With under that umbrella, it's not just the Alzheimer's disease. There's also Lewy bodies. There is Parkinson. There is vascular. There are other actual dementia types that exist.
Mhm.
Alzheimer's is the largest. It's around 60 to 80% actually. It takes up the bulk of the overarching numbers associated with dementia. But in particular, why we should be concerned about it is that 1 in 2 Black families are impacted by Alzheimer's disease, and we don't know why.
Mm.
And it's 2/3 women.
Mm. Very
Yeah.
interesting. I know that.
Yes.
Learned something. Well, I was just about to ask you that. Well, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm definitely excited about this conversation because a lot of people don't realize that mental health and brain health, like I say, it's kind of obvious, but it's best to know how to, I guess, prepare for the worst, ahead of time, maybe get ahead of that before it could happen. But I want to know, is there a disparity between Black people and the disease? I know you kind of shared that, but I guess, is there a study why it kind of shows up more?
So um, right now, we do not know exactly why Alzheimer's impact Blacks, African Americans, along with, so that's both our Black and Brown sisters and brothers, more than what's called entitled as non-Hispanic whites.
Yeah.
What we do know, though, are major biomarkers that may actually impact us more. Because think about the brain. Think about the brain and its overall requirements. I'm a layperson in this space. Mind you, I've been coaching for a number of years on the space of caregiving, Alzheimer's, and aging. But it stands to reason that we're talking about vascular disorders associated with hypertension, i.e., high blood pressure. We're talking about diabetes, menopause, sleep
Mm.
deprivation, racial discrimination, genetics, environmental, stress, mental
Mhm.
health. And when you talk to Blacks today, and as we just came through COVID, and I say through because I'm just convinced that at some point in time, we may be able to get peace from this particular disease that so aggressively hit our families and impacted, of course, who,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Right.
In that instance, this is a disease that's perfect for us because our controlling our diabetes, our controlling our hypertension, our controlling our numbers. Racial discrimination is also very, very powerful because when we go to the doctor and we speak to the issue of memory loss, is there really a clarity and understanding? And are we asking to get a neurological workup associated with that? That may not be something that we use as under the area of doctor's orders. I get to ask my doctor and speak to the severity of what I'm going through to then ask for a follow-up. Maybe some of us not are that maybe we're not as brave to do so.
Mhm.
And there's a couple things I want to add to that throughout this conversation as to being aggressive about what you need to know about your health. Um, but it's just this disparity exists for us in the medical lane in general, and as a result, it gets more exacerbated in this
Mm.
lane of caregiving, Alzheimer's, and aging.
Interesting. Well, that was very informative. I learned some more things today. I guess let's talk more about you and what you do on a day to day. So, you go by caregiver coach. You also have a background as, I think, dementia practitioner, So tell us, what is that? Like, what do you do on a day to day? Share that with us.
So yes, I am a dementia care practitioner. And so on the day-to-day basis, I actually run two verticals within my life. Now, those verticals are, of course, not to walk away from the fact that I am Gigi to two wonderful grandkids. And I actually, in that instance, I'm mommy to a son of 50 years of age. I get great joy of playing golf and biblical history. And I'm also a divinity student. But when you come back into the lane of dementia care practitioner, it stands to reason that there needs to be people available, such as myself, that are certified in the lane of dementia,
Mm.
meaning an understanding and clarity of the disease, who it impacts, how it impacts our families. The why, of course, is still being addressed, but along with that, what are the tips and tools for us to address this disease and its impact overall? So, in terms of my day, I spent 2 meetings a day addressing overall resources and direction. I counsel families on tips that may be as basic as how to get the keys away from a parent that has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's that's getting lost, to a more overarching strategy with corporations where I actually address talks called While I'm at Work, Who's Caring for My Mom and Dad? So what are the resources available? Do I understand what a TOD is? Do I understand will? Do I understand power of attorney? Do I understand advanced directives? There is a litany and a list of various stages associated with this disease and the phases of caregiving that come in concert with it. And I spend my life actually helping to educate our people to learn how to age well together.
Wow. I guess I know you kind of already touched on what you do on the daily, but is every day the same, or it's a different every day? Tell us.
You know what? I thank God that with it being my company, I do get to decide what does go on the calendar. But in that, I'm also the agency of record for the University of North Texas Health Science Center and their research studies on Alzheimer's here in the DFW area. So in that instance, in that I am an agency, I generate quite a bit of um, uh, creative being in the form of print communications, radio, press, to tell the story about the 1 in 2 Black families, what's available to us in the community, and how the research study can help us power our way to change in the future and the trajectory of this disease, because we need an answer. We need an
Absolutely.
answer.
Absolutely. Well, that's, a great way to jump into this question. What personally led you to, wanting to, I guess, gather more awareness and even research, I guess, involving Alzheimer's disease?
Let me go back in time. I was in hair care for actually up until last year, about 42 years. So I'm that person who helped build hair care brands on demand by either my employers or my clients, in that I had the pleasure of, on the last corporate seat, I was vice president of marketing at Proline, which was just for me and Soft and Beautiful and Comb Through. But I actually had on my desk previously brands like S Curl and Pink Oil Moisturizer when I worked for them back in the day as well. So I'm from Chicago.
Yes.
And
I love it.
yes, exactly. I'm from Chicago. I was working at Soft Sheen. We were going through a transition, and I took an assignment in Dallas. I left my hometown to come down here. And a year upon arrival in this role, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's,
Mm.
and it changed my life for forever. Now, I've been a forever caregiver because I was a caregiver for my dad at 21, and then obviously for my mom. In this case, I shouldn't say obviously. I would say in the case of mom, it was about 7 years before she succumbed to the disease. Um, when I'm in this role of calling and developing brands and calling on major retail chains, um, I recognized that I went to the shelf to find books on the disease. I actually volunteered with the Alzheimer's Association. I sat on the board for 4 years.
Wow.
The information that was available for me as an executive type that could address the financial implications and how to be prepared. I couldn't find it all in one place. I did not see a complete holistic embodiment of a program that would help me take a family through the aging process, not to walk away from the fact that really as God's people, we generally are used to multi-generational households. We're a little bit changed over the last 2 decades or so, but the thing that I could tell people that needs to be alarming for all of us, Alzheimer's is actually prevalent in your body 10 to
Mm.
20 years before it presents itself.
Oh my gosh. That's scary. I should be laughing,
Very.
but I was not or expecting, I guess.
Exactly. So I'm that executive not knowing what's going on with my mind. I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's. And I say to my siblings in Chicago, I got it because that's that anal A type that I am, and the oldest girl. And mind you, mom comes down. The great part about it is that I have an amazing family structure of siblings that fight like everyone else. But when it comes to mama,
Mm-hmm.
we rallied around each other and managed our way through this process. But it was because it was just devastating in the way it made you feel. It wasn't a question of whether or not you're going to take care of your mom. For me, it was about $100,000 over the course of 7 years personally. It has nothing to do with my other siblings actually contributed toward the pot to make sure that she lived the life that she deserved, and that in this instance was dignity. And so now my attitude is, how much can I do to educate other individuals such as myself so that they don't go through what we did? Because Alzheimer's right now is here without a cure, and we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. So,
Mm. Wow, that's beautiful. Well, I gotta know, what made you start Daily Enterprises? I know you kind of already shared a little bit with your own personal story, but yeah, and I guess how is that going towards I think it's the Healthy and Aging Brain Study that you guys have in place? Yeah, tell
yeah.
us more about that.
So I'm consulting on hair care still on several major brands that you may be very well be familiar with. Um, And I'm running a parallel path and having sat on the board for Alzheimer's Association. So I'm out coaching, I'm out talking to corporations, and I meet these doctors at an event that I have been the MC for about 15 years. And that's the annual Alzheimer's Caregiver Awareness event here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And this particular doctor, one of the lead investigators, did this amazing presentation on sleep, because sleep is an issue. And in order for us to cool down our brains at night, it requires sleep, something that we fight against, all that blue light, and we're maybe getting 6 hours, and it's not really 6 hours. You're not sleep like like REM sleep the entire time. So I'm so impressed. We fall in love with each other. She says, come meet with us. And I'm an agency. I create creative. It's been something part of my life all the years of the some 40 plus years that I've been in a corporate arena. And I meet them in the offices and they say, we really could use some help in targeting and reaching the Black community because we've received funding from the National Institute on Health.
Mm-hmm.
And so for HSC at Fort Worth, we were awarded a contract
Mm-hmm.
in December of 2021
Wow.
for the first round. And as of last year in September, we then received an extension to our contract for 5 years to not only address Alzheimer's awareness in the community for Blacks and African Americans, but also includes Hispanics and Latino brothers and sisters, along with non-Hispanic whites. And when I say outreach, I'm going to tell you something, Chelsea. We have so much fun. We activate at jazz festivals. We activated blues festivals. We just did an event, Cinco de Mayo here in Dallas in Fair Park. We call on barbershops and salons with content and materials. And then we have corporate talks like we had early today. We are having a great time having to put about 30 weeks of advertising on the radio annually on major stations to spread the word about the disease And then our new campaign is called Be Brain Health Happy. And the way it reads is the best mom gift ever is to be brain health happy to see my kids grow up. And the same thing for dads, the same things as a business owner, because that's what we're looking for. We want to be great in our minds and our thoughts so that our deeds can live out the way God has designed it for us. So
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, yeah, it used to be called the Black Alzheimer's Brain Study, I think, right?
that's
Yes.
correct.
Well, I guess how are you guys conducting it? Because I know it's specifics. I remember reading a little bit and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like there's very detailed. So can we, I guess, dive into it a little bit more? I know you kind of covered the outreach and things of that nature, but yeah, what does that research look like? How do they go about that?
So when we first got the project, one of the biggest issues we had as a concern is that within the Black community, there was always this memory of the Tuskegee trial.
Mm,
And the thinking is that there was not that many Blacks in actual research studies as a whole.
mhm,
Only 5% of Blacks in America were in any research combined across all morbidities and concerns. So could they actually secure 1,000 African Americans? In this instance, because this is a number one, a no drug study.
mhm, right.
Number two, it's a caring team of experts. We're talking about a staff of several 60 or so odd people dedicated to helping get to closure on what's going on with our bodies. It's a free research study. That means it also does not tap into your insurance. It includes the opportunity to share the details with your physician, which is extremely important because they're not trying to be in this instance your doctor. They're trying to actually address it from the lane of finding and getting your biomarkers and doing what's called a longitudinal study. And what does that mean? It means that we now, where we started the research study for 50-year-olds and up, it's now open to 30-year-olds up to the age of 90.
Oh, wow.
So we're able to stay with you to the earlier point that was made, which is about 20 years. We're able to stay with you for 20 years. And you then you're also able to begin to manage your numbers.
Mhm,
You can manage what does hypertension look like for you. You're doing this every 2 years, which is really great and phenomenal. And sharing the details also helps. The latest in robotics
mhm,
in the US, actually, this is two investigators, and it's their life work. That's what they're called. They're called investigators with this team that backs them up. And they are dedicated to getting to this because in this instance, both of them were impacted by Alzheimer's disease, which was in each of their family. So coming at the Black community and now spanning across all the other groups, actually is one cohort group, but in terms of the cultural aspect of our community, is just everything. So
mhm,
robotics, it's free.
mhm.
It's 8 hours of your time.
Okay.
So usually it's done 2 half days. And that's primarily because they won't conduct an MRI and a PET on the same day. That
Okay.
just makes sense.
Mhm,
Um, but I do want to point out that you do also earn compensation for your time. The the scenario of it being the Black Alzheimer's brain study, to now move to the health and aging brain study, that actually existed and was in play. It was just that at the time we were so aggressive to try to get the Black community in this particular program. We chose to go out with that name, and now we're placing everything under the name of the Health and Aging Brain Study, as acknowledged by the University of North Texas Health Science Center.
okay. That makes sense. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I guess to the good stuff, right? Mental health awareness. How is Alzheimer's disease linked to mental health? Um, yeah.
Right now, pretty much everybody who's listening to my voice is thinking often, and as we've come through COVID, about their overall mental health and well-being as well as memory gaps.
Mm.
You know, I hear the questions all the time. Usually, sometimes people are just making a joke about the fact that they laid their keys in the refrigerator and couldn't find them. And then there's a joke that comes back that says, oh, but if they're in the refrigerator and you don't recognize them, that's the problem. Well, we're a little bit more intent in getting people to understand what you're looking for when you're looking for Alzheimer's disease, versus when you're talking about your overall mental health and well-being. The biggest aspect that I would say to most of us, is reasonable that you as an individual have these things that you do that's just all Chelsea. It's just it's just your rhythm, it's just your pace. If it were on my side of the fence, I would say to someone, if I can no longer do X percentage of certain dollars in my head, I have a problem. I have this process where I've got a strong memory of numbers. If I cannot recall all of my routing numbers, my account numbers, um, my various codes to various sites, et cetera, that I frequented, my son is on alert to know and recognize mommy's different.
Interesting.
You need to have a buddy and an advocate in your life that knows you, where you can have an open, honest discussion to say, I need you to pay attention to what I say and how I say it. I need you to begin to look for signs. I need you to even be able to look at moms and say, this meal mom always cooked is one dish. So I love to cook twice a year,
Okay.
twice a year. And I make what's called a caramel cake, and not everyone knows how to make a caramel cake anymore.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so if I can't make the caramel cake, the sweet potato pies, the banana pudding, the chocolate cake, the peanut butter cookies, just all of the things that I normally would do, my family is at a watch. I want people to recognize that Alzheimer's is a disease that impacts your cognition skills. And that means it's your math skills, it is your basic fundamental living skills of every day and how you draw and come up with decisions. It's your ability of getting lost and being able to track your way back. You may not be able to track your way back. For people who are in accounting, I call it the LIFO system. That means the last in, the first out. The memory that you have that's explicit, that sits in the hippocampus, is the memory you lose last, as opposed to something where you may go in the doctor's office and they'll give you 3 words to remember, and they are expecting you at some point in that discussion to recall that. In this instance, you begin to become repetitive. You become a little bit, I would say, argumentative at times, because people are showing you different, like, there's nothing wrong with me. Mental health awareness is a little bit under a different lane. I would ask us all to be mindful that, yes, Alzheimer's comes with depression along with mental health. And that in this instance, I believe all of us should have access to a mental health professional to balance off our dialogue between memory loss. Am I suffering from some sort of depression or overall? And then double down against that with your age as well. And then, of course, you can always participate in a research study. And they, in this instance, just like in ours, they would take you through a memory test to help you understand if there really is an issue. And they can follow up to see if there's an MRI stat that is a basis behind that as well. Did that answer your question?
Oh, no, it did. I've learned a lot too. I know we have crunch time here, but just a couple more questions. How can this affect both the patients and the caretakers? Because, like you said, people are kind of watching out for, like you said, there's things put into place where they can kind of see like, oh, something's different. So yeah, how does that affect as far as mental health goes?
The thing that's extremely important for all of us to recognize, the diagnosis of Alzheimer's for the individual is a diagnosis of caregiving for the family and for the community. it's not a scenario where this is just mom or dad or uncle has Alzheimer's. It is all of the care that comes in concert with that. So we're talking about, I think one stat I've seen is 53 million caregivers, of which 11 million are caring for the elderly. That's great and fine. But the other aspect of it is, what is the commitment in terms of the number of hours a week that you have to be engaged in caring for an adult human being? This is not a child. This is not someone who's just going to be totally agreeable with you, probably. Because in their mind, they are battling, trying to keep themselves and keep their personality intact. So we are running a parallel path. And one of the things I try to talk to individuals and families about is, now that the diagnosis of Alzheimer's has taken place, here's now what to expect for your parent and your loved one, for you to prepare for it, the safe home, etc. But wait a minute. If you did not do these other steps leading up to that, though, and that includes whether or not you're safe, because it's significant the number of caregivers who also then develop dementia down the road, because their life takes on more time of the day than they actually have. So do you have your financial orders in place? Do you have all of your legal paperwork in place? Do you understand that the actual daily living aids is required for your parent? Where are they going to stay? Who's going to pay for that? And in that instance, if you could understand that you've got caregivers saying anywhere from 15 to 30 to 40% of their budget is going toward caring for someone, it's a parallel path. It's not a singular lane.
Interesting. Well, how can we improve our mental and our brain health? I know as a caregiver coach, tell us, what can we do starting now? That makes sense.
I would like everyone right now to think about the language of just change your mind right now. And yes, I'm going to talk to you. I would say that we need to watch what we eat, most assuredly. Think about the brain and its desire to be hydrated. Think about the brain and its desire to have blood flow. The way you can think about brain health is heart health. If the heart is healthy and you're feeding your heart, you're going to be feeding your brain. Are we willing to do that? We need to do that. Movement is going to be important. Food is going to be important. Sleep is going to be important. All those things are going to help us. But the other side of it is that I need everybody also to understand their numbers. If you go every month to the if you go once a year to the doctor to get a reading on your A1C and get a reading on your blood pressure, that's a problem. If you're over the age of 40. And this really significantly impacts men, because you can't wait for a year to find out that you have been having an issue of hypertension and you expect to have a healthy brain. That doesn't go in concert with each other, because one of the things that transpires with the elevated blood pressure and the elevated and the issue of our A1C is that's what's going to lead to stroke. If it leads to stroke, it's going to lead to dementia. We need to remember our heart, to remember our brain, right? Heart, mind, body, soul applies.
I love it. Well, this has been such a beautiful conversation, very informative, very impactful. Thank you so much, Pat, for coming on Health IQ and speaking with us today.
I love that. And I do want to say, if everyone could call, if they want to be a part of the study, at 817-735-2963, our grandkids would appreciate that.
I love that so much. Thank you so much, Pat Bailey, for your time. You've been wonderful.
You. All right.
Yes, have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye now.